Well, hi there, South Fellowship. This is Pastor Ryan here, and we are doing our video study on 1 Kings chapter 19, verses 1 through 9. But as you can see, I'm going to focus on verses 1 through the first part of verse 5. And there's just one thing that I want to focus on today. I think sometimes when we read the scriptures, we sort of imagine the people of the Bible, that they're these people that are totally unlike us, where they have this like red cape that they wear, and that they're these superheroes. We even call people heroes of the faith, and imagine that they were people completely unlike us. And what I want to show you today is that one is not true. And as you read through the narratives, as the historical books in the Bible, one of the things that starts to jump out is, man, these people were normal people who had great successes and some pretty significant failures as well, or struggles, maybe not failures, struggles. And Elijah, that's the person who we've been studying over the last few weeks, is in that line with those other folks. And here's what the scriptures say. This is 1 Kings chapter 19, and like I said, we're starting in verse 3. Elijah was afraid. He was afraid of Jezebel, this wicked queen who had married Ahab, but really was controlling Ahab's every move. And she had promised that she was going to kill Elijah, and so he was afraid. And he ran for his life. When he came to Beersheba in Judah, he left his servant there. Remember, if you were there, and if you weren't, I'd encourage you to watch the message we gave on the depressed prophet. But here's what Elijah's doing. He's isolating himself. And while he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, he came to a broom bush, sat down under it, and prayed that he might die. And here's his exact phrase: Lord, I've had enough. We're not exactly sure if what he's had enough of is this fear that has just gotten to his heart. But we do know that he's thinking about dying, that he might even be having like what we would call now suicidal ideation. He doesn't say that he's thinking about taking his own life, but he's asking that God would take his life. Not all that big of a difference there. Take my life, he says. Take it. I'm done. I'm no better than my ancestors. And he laid down under the bush and fell asleep. Now, we talked about this yesterday, but what I want to do is just point out the humanity of Elijah, that he gets to the point where he says, I've had enough, Lord. I'm done living. I'm done serving. I'm done walking with you. God, I'm done. I'm done. I want my life to be over. So here's the question. Is Elijah unique? Like, is he the only prophet who struggles with depression? Is he the only person in the scriptures that we would consider like a hero of faith that struggles with depression? Well, it's really interesting, and here's what I want you to sort of dive into. We're going to use this as a jumping off point to just say, answer this question: no, no, he's not. Let me give you just a few others, and you can go look these up on your own time, but we want to fill out the humanity of the people in the scriptures so that we don't think that they wear a cape. One, David. After his son died, he says, man, I lament that I was even born, right? This is in 2 Samuel chapter 15, or chapter 12, verses 15 through 23 and 18:33. You see also that this happens with the prophet Jonah. And you can read about that in Jonah chapter 4, verse 3, that after he sees God move mightily and redeem Nineveh, Jonah says, Man, I am, now Lord, take my life. It's better for me to die than it is to live. You can also go on and read verse 9. Not surprisingly enough, Job struggled with depression. Just read all of Job, okay? That 42 verses, 42 chapters there. So go ahead. Moses, one of the Hebrew heroes of the faith, Exodus 32, verse 32. Lord, forgive their sin, but if you don't, then blot me out of the book that you've written, God. Like, I am done. I'm done. Jeremiah. In Jeremiah chapter 20, verse 14 and verse 18, Jeremiah says, "Cursed be the day I was born. Why did I ever come out of the womb to see trouble and sorrow and to see the end of my days?" So what I want to point out is that there's something unfortunate that's happened in church culture in our day and time. And it's sort of the idea that followers of Jesus should never struggle with depression, that they should never struggle with the sorrow that says, I've had enough, and that we should, so then what happens is if you do struggle with depression, there's this like feeling of shame, like Jesus should be enough for me, I don't know why I'm struggling with this, and then it's just you have to go into hiding. So this church becomes an unsafe place to struggle. Catch this, to struggle with the things that David struggled with, that Jonah struggled with, that Job struggled with, that Moses struggled with, and that Jeremiah struggled with. And what I want to say is, if you're listening to this video and you struggle with depression, if you struggle with suicidal ideation, if you struggle with things like that, that the church should be the safest place in the world to struggle, because we have a scripture full of people who were trying to follow after God, trying to live faithfully, and came to points in their life where they said, I've had enough. So if that's you, I just want you to know, one, that if you're part of South Fellowship, you're welcome here. If you're not part of South, find a church that has space for people to struggle. But also, in each one of these people, they did this. Here's what they eventually found. They eventually found hope. That their story wasn't over, that depression wasn't the end of their story. And just like Elijah is going to hear from this angel, get up, keep going, keep moving forward. Depression is not the end of your story. So I just want to encourage you today to see the people in Scripture as real people with real struggles, just like you and just like me. Don't pretend that they wear a cape. They didn't. And here's the thing, neither do you, and you don't have to be welcomed in the house of God. All right, South, I love you. Have a great rest of your day. God bless.